The Raiders as an organization were very, very busy on Tuesday. Players leaving, new ownership, and a whole lot more. We'll talk about it on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for October 16th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. And as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show continues to grow each and every day, over 16,000 subscribers and growing. We definitely appreciate that, Raider Nation. We definitely appreciate my man Ari, who does a fantastic job each and every day, making sure we're on YouTube, we're looking good, and we're sounding good. So we shout him out. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. As you can imagine, plenty of calls and texts to get to coming up. Segment number 3. Segment number 2, we'll talk about one of the big pieces of news that happened around the Silver and Black on Tuesday, and that was Tom Brady, Richard Seymour, and others being rewarded a small minority stake in the Silver and Black as far as ownership goes. So we'll break that down in segment number 2. Plus, you'll hear from the owner, Mark Davis, who was in Atlanta for the owner meetings and also was part of the vote that was unanimous, 32-0, a unanimous vote to make Tom Brady part of the Raiders ownership. So that all comes up segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, the first piece of news, big news that happened on Tuesday around the Silver and Black, Davante Adams to the New York Jets. We'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. Place your $5 bet. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. And it's funny, it started early in the morning on Tuesday. I'm on my ESPN radio show. Actually, not my ESPN radio show. I'm actually filling in on Greeny on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, every Tuesday and Wednesday morning, as a matter of fact, all the way through the Super Bowl. So 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time, I'm on ESPN radio filling in for Greeny. And before the season, he said that he felt that Davante was going to be a Jet, and he went and guaranteed that Davante was going to be a Jet before Halloween. And it's funny because I went on not only ESPN radio on Game Night, which is my show that I do from 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific time, not only my show, but Raider Nation Radio 920 Unnecessary Roughness, my local radio show, and also this podcast as well, and said that's not going to happen. Davante's not going anywhere. Things are going to be fine. The Raiders are going to be able to stay afloat, and you know he'll be good with where they're at. And on top of that, I thought, well, the trade deadline's not till November 5th, so even if he does get traded, it won't be till after Halloween. At least that's what I thought. Well, Tuesday was October 15th. So I clearly would have lost that bet. And it's funny because the bet that I tried to place was, all right, Greeny, if you lose, I get to host your show. Funny thing is, come full circle, I'm hosting his show anyway. So I guess that bet didn't matter, and he never responded anyway. So there you go. I guess joke's on him or whatever. Maybe I got the reward that I wanted, even if I won the bet without winning the bet. But I'm on his show Tuesday morning, about 5 minutes into the show. It's myself, Hembo, and Dan Graziano we had on as a guest, and I just asked him about Monday night's game and the outcome, and did he think that was going to, speed up the process for a Davante Adams trade to the Jets. And he said, Q, I don't think that he makes the Jets better. They have a lot more issues than just a guy catching passes and trying to score touchdowns. They can't protect Aaron Rodgers. They can't, stop the run. Their penalties are massive. Their coaching still isn't good. So what's Davante Adams going to do? And I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there and asking you, right? Something that I said on the podcast on Tuesday as well. Maybe with the way that the Jets lost on Monday, maybe that'll fast track. Well, not sooner than Dan Graziano got that out of his mouth. We got a tweet from Adam Schefter, or the tweet from Adam Schefter came out saying that the Jets and Raiders were finalizing a trade to send Davante Adams to the Jets. So the Raiders get a conditional third-round pick from the Jets. Also, the Jets eat all of Davante's salary, which is something that the Raiders wanted. The Raiders wanted to get a second-round pick and not touch any of the salary, make sure that, the team that trades for him takes on all the salary. The Jets did that, but they also gave in that conditional third-round pick, which can turn into a second-round pick if Davante Adams is first or second team AP All-Pro, or if he's on the active roster for an AFC Championship game or Super Bowl. Now, I don't think those last two things are going to be part of the equation. I don't even see the Jets as a playoff team. I really don't. If they do, they'll be one and done. AFC Championship game, Super Bowl, that's out. First or second team AP All-Pro, sure. I think that's possible, especially second-team All-Pro, right? I know that he's missed 3 games, but he's Davante Adams. He's very familiar with Aaron Rodgers, and guess who's going to feed him the rock all the time? Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. So if he puts up big numbers, regardless of how many games they win, I can still see him, because of his name, because he's in New York with Aaron Rodgers, him still making AP All-Pro team, even the second team. And if they get on the second team, then the Raiders all of a sudden get that third-round pick turned into a second-round pick, which would be fantastic. And if you want to look at just the salary, because, again, the Jets ate all the salary. They took on that. They did restructure it, so they lowered his cap hit for 2024, and obviously they're going to continue to do that for 2025 and 2026 if he's still on the team. But per the Adams trade, and this is Spotrac.com, the Raiders have freed up $28.4 million of cap space for 2025 and now project to hold around $108 million of cap space next offseason, which is the 5th in the NFL. It's a whole lot of money. It's a whole lot of money to fill some holes, bring in some free agents, do what you got to do to try to improve the team. Offensive line, corner, whatever the case may be, whatever Tom Telesco and company feel like they need to do and go address in the offseason in free agency, they'll have the ability to do that, including re-signing their own guys. Also, when it comes to draft capital, this is from Jordan Reed from ESPN. He does a fantastic job with drafts and mock drafts and all that. Just a draft guru for ESPN. He's up and coming. He's fantastic. Said, following the Davante Adams trade, the Raiders now have 8 total draft picks in 2025, with 2 more possible comp picks coming. Amik Robertson and Bilal Nichols, a team that should be viewed as prime candidates to draft or trade up for a quarterback in 2025. Again, that's from Jordan Reed from ESPN. And look, if you got 8, 9, maybe even 10 draft picks, you're cooking with grease. You got a lot of opportunity. Now, I did see Bilal Nichols is on IR for the Cardinals, and he's going to be out the rest of the season, so he probably won't play enough to be able to get a comp pick for the Raiders, but Amik Robertson will, or looks like he's going to, so that'll be at least 9. If Tom Telesco has 9 draft picks and $108 million plus in cap space, they should be able to do something, put something together, including getting their quarterback and other pieces that they need moving forward. So I thought that, hey, look, it's finally over. The speculation is done. You knew Davante wasn't going to play for the Raiders anymore. That relationship between him and AP got fractured somewhere. The relationship between him and the team got fractured somewhere. I think the relationship with the team started to get fractured when Carr was moved on from and wasn't properly replaced. Something we talked about quite a bit on this show, right? It's okay to move on from Carr, but don't just get a quarterback. You got to go and get the quarterback. The problem that the Raiders did, and I'm good friends with Dave Ziegler, and I have no problem saying to him, the problem that they did is they didn't go get the quarterback, and I think that they know that. They went and got a quarterback in Jimmy G, not the quarterback, someone that's going to make Davante happy or make the team better like other teams were able to do. The Raiders weren't able to do that, but game, set, match, it's all over. Davante is already in New York. He took a red eye there. He's got custom cleats. He's playing in the game on Sunday night against the Steelers in primetime action. Hamstrings feel fantastic. He was like Forrest Gump, right? Remember when Forrest was running and all of a sudden them braces came off his legs? Everything was good. It was like, run, Forrest, run. And boom, everything broke off. That's Davante Adams, man. He broke out of them braces. Hamstrings feel fantastic. Man, he's probably the fastest he's ever been now in his career. Because now he's in New York. He's got the Jets, for real. He's got those burners on. So with that being said, they put a close and a close to the chapter that is Davante Adams. He did put out a message to Raider Nation. And a lot of folks kind of, I don't want to hear from him. Josh Jacobs left the team, went to Green Bay in free agency, and didn't put out a message. Raider Nation got mad. Davante Adams, he did that on Tuesday afternoon, saying, as a kid from East Palo Alto who grew up a Raiders fan, the past 3 years have been both an honor and fulfillment of a childhood dream. I came to Las Vegas with the intention of bringing a championship to the city and have cherished every opportunity to play with that continued pursuit in mind. To my teammates, coaches, ownership, and staff, you have all taught me countless lessons. I'm forever grateful for the resiliency, drive, and commitment you brought every day as we work tirelessly to build something together. And to Raider Nation, thank you for your relentless passion and unwavering support when I put on the historic shield every Sunday. From Oakland to Las Vegas, Raider Nation has and will always be part of my family. That is from Davante Adams. Whether you want to hear it or not, that's what he had to say. But that, in my opinion, sealed the deal, put a stamp on what Davante Adams was in his short time in Las Vegas. I had someone hit me up and say, Q, how would you describe Davante Adams and his time with the silver and black? And I said, you know what? The best way to say it, it was like a weekend in Vegas, right? It's exciting and fantastic when you're flying in and everyone on the plane and the stewardess are like, hey, we're going to be landing in 5 minutes. And everyone's all excited and cheering and drinking and Viva Las Vegas. Everything is fantastic. And then when that weekend's over, you get on that plane, it's quiet, you got your glasses on, you got your hoodie on, you're not opening up the shade, you're leaning, you're snoring, you're drooling on whoever's next to you, even if it's not someone you know. It's just bad business. And most of the time, your pockets are empty. It's kind of how the trip was with Davante, right? All the excitement coming in, not a whole lot of excitement leaving out. It just didn't work out like many trips to Las Vegas. That's just kind of how it goes. But that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Finally, a nail in the coffin of what is the time that Davante spent with the Silver and Black, as he's now a member of the New York Jets. But a new chapter of Raiders history and future, I should say, really opened up on Tuesday as well. Tom Brady, Richard Seymour, part of the ownership. We'll get into that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, let me tell you about a couple great sponsors here on the Locked On Raiders podcast, including LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. And they know small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and even quicker. Right now, post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I also want to tell you about Prize Picks. What's Prize Picks? Well, it's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And Prize Picks has so many different features. They have, you can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. They're the best place to get real money sports action. And you could also play alongside some of your favorites like Drewski, Joe Budden, MMA champ Sean O'Malley. They're in the community plays under the promos tab of the app. You can view entries from some of the biggest names in Prize Picks community each and every week. So what do you need to do to go ahead and make that happen? It's simple. Download the app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word to get $50 instantly after you play your first final $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. So the big news of the day, Davante Adams, no longer a member of the Silver and Black. Now he's a member of the New York Jets. Well, that was not the end of the news cycle when it came to the Silver and Black on Tuesday, because lo and behold, a little bit later on in the afternoon, we find out that Tom Brady has officially been approved to be a minority owner of the Silver and Black. And this is something that was expected. My guy, Vinny Bonsignore from the Las Vegas Review-Journal and also Raider Nation Radio 920 Morning Tailgate. He's actually been in Atlanta the past couple days at the owners' meetings. And the one thing I know about the NFL, they don't put something on the ballot until they're ready for it to be approved. It's something that's been going on since about 2023, and it's taken a while to get here, but now it's officially here. So Albert Breer put out on Twitter around Tuesday afternoon, source, Tom Brady has been approved as a minority owner of the Raiders. He said, per sources, Raiders limited partner Tom Brady was approved in this purchase of 5% of the team by NFL owners by a 32-0 vote. So unanimous. The NFL owners said, yes, everything is good. A lot of it had to do with financials checking out. At least that's what the reports were, because it felt like it kept getting pushed back, and then finally it gets signed, sealed, and delivered as of Tuesday. Also, Vinny Bonsignore, who I mentioned was there in Atlanta, said Brady, a 7-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, and Nighthead Capital Management co-founder Tom Wagner are buying 10% of the franchise from owner Mark Davis. Seymour is buying a 0.5% of the team. No financial details of the sale were made public. The Raiders were recently valued at $7.8 billion, according to CNBC. This is the interesting nugget part right here when it comes to Tom Brady and his part ownership. This is in Vinny Bonsignore's article that he has in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He says, I think Tom is going to have a much bigger role than people think in the direction of the franchise in all areas on the football side, a league source said. And I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100,000 more times. Vinny Bonsignore is not just going to pull something out his backside and throw it up against the wall and hope that it sticks. So if he's hearing that Tom Brady is going to have a bigger role, then he's probably going to have a bigger role. And a matter of fact, he sent me some sound from Mark Davis, what he had to say at the owners' meetings in Atlanta about Tom Brady. We'll get to that in a hot minute, including an interesting little nugget on the potential next franchise quarter for the Silver and Black. But also with Tom Brady and his ownership, remember, he's part of Fox Broadcasting. He's on the A broadcast for Fox. And, well, that sounds like it could be a conflict of interest. If you remember, the NFL and the NFL owners all put in some parameters of what his restrictions are going to be. Just in case you don't remember, check this out. Tom Brady, not permitted to be in another team's facility. He's also not permitted to witness practice. Not permitted to attend broadcast production, meetings either in person or virtually, prohibited from publicly criticizing game officials and other clubs, subject to the NFL's gambling policy, subject to the NFL's anti-tampering policy. So there's a lot of rules in place that Tom Brady can't do. Right now, Tom Brady is still Tom Brady, and he's got a relationship with all the players across the league. So what is there to be said that if a player just picks up the phone and says, hey, they want to call Tom Brady because they played with him at one point, or, you know, their buddy played with them, or whatever the case may be? I'm sure there's wiggle room. I'm sure there's ways of getting around that. Maybe Tom Brady happens to be somewhere and one of his buddies happens to be there as well. Like, who knows what he can get away with and what he can't get away with, but they're trying to make sure that there is no conflict of interest when it comes to Tom Brady, the analyst, the guy who's doing the color commentary, who's getting his broadcast on, who meets with, coaches and observes practice. All that stuff is not going to happen now that Tom Brady is a minority owner in the Silver and Black. So what does that all mean? What does Mark Davis feel about that? And also just Tom Brady being a part of the team now? Well, here's some great sound, about 4 minutes of sound of Mark Davis at the owners' meetings with multiple media members talking about this finally becoming official. Check it out.
Your thoughts on Tom Brady, Richard Seymour, and Tom Wagner buying into the team?
Yeah, we're excited for Tom Wagner, Tom Brady, and Richard Seymour to become partners in the Las Vegas Raiders. I'd like to thank the Finance Committee, who after a year and a half came up with a unanimous recommendation to approve, and then to my other 31 partners who unanimously approved it as well. It's an exciting day for the Raider organization. It's an exciting day for all three of those gentlemen, and we're looking forward to what they can bring to the Raider organization in the future.
What role do you expect Tom Brady to play in your organization?
Well, it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. We wanted to get to this point first before we started defining anything of that nature and all that, but it's just exciting. What I was going to say is we traded Davante Adams for Tom Brady in a third-round pick today. And although Tom can't play, I think he can help us select a quarterback in the future and potentially train him as well. And so it's a huge benefit to the organization.
What did it take to get this very long process? What did it take to get it over the finish line?
I don't know. I couldn't answer that. I'd have to think about it. It's still sinking in.
Over time, obviously he's an investor in the Aces, now the Raiders. How have you guys formed what I would call sort of a bromance?
It's pretty interesting. It was about 4 years ago when Tom was deciding where he was going to play again, and I wanted him to play for the Raiders, and so we got to know each other a little bit then, and it didn't come to fruition for certain reasons, and he went to Tampa Bay and ended up winning a Super Bowl. I had stayed in touch with his agent and just let his agent know at the time that I would love at some point in time for Tom to be part of this organization, and so the seeds were sown then, and today it came to fruition. And I've gotten to know Tom over the last 4 years, and he's just really one hell of a guy.
Mark, obviously a 2-4 start. What are your kind of impressions of the Raiders at this point in the season?
Come on, man. We're not happy right now. We're not performing like we'd like to, but the season's young, and we'll see what we can put together.
When you were looking at limited partners, was there any consideration into looking at the private equity piece of that?
I don't want to answer that, but no. And it wasn't just looking to add limited partners. It was looking to add people that could bring value to the organization above and beyond just the economics, but people that can bring something to the organization for the future.
Mark, quite just bluntly, what can you get from Tom Brady now that he owns part of the team that you couldn't have gotten yesterday from Tom Brady as someone that you have known and gotten to know over the last several years?
I don't know that I could answer that either. We'll see. I mean, again, today's day one. when they say, my dad said the greatness of the Raiders is in the future, well, today is, again, starting that future.
Do you think that the broadcast restrictions were they coming from specific owners, like maybe ones in your own division, or who was expressing like maybe the competition?
You know, I don't know how to answer that question. It's something that, that they did have concerns about. I would say that if a owner of the Chiefs wanted to come in and interview my head coach and quarterback, I probably wouldn't want him to do it either.
Yeah.
So again, we've been that way all our whole time. We're paranoid is what we are in the Raiders. But so I understood what people were concerned about. I do know that the coaches and the quarterbacks do want to talk to them. Whether they're not going to give them the full story and everything, and they're not giving you guys the full story either when they're talking. They're telling you guys what they want the other team to hear, and then it's for you guys to just.
You got to this point now. Should you all have done something differently as related to the player and trade opportunities well before today?
I like the question, but you're asking me to say, should I have known now what I knew then? Or should I have known then what I know now?
Sure.
And did I make the decision to actually do this? And those things, and I will say, I leave these decisions up to the general manager and the head coach, and they make the football decisions. I consult with them, and I might play devil's advocate a lot of the times in it, but they make the decisions. And they make the final decisions. That's how this is going to continue to go.
So I thought that was great. We don't hear from MD all the time, but to hear from him right there in that type of setting, and you could tell that he was pretty happy and excited. And that interesting nugget that he had about Tom Brady, and he can't play for the Raiders, but he could potentially help them find their next quarterback and also train him up. I think that that's an interesting nugget. Also, another little nugget that was in there was the fact that Mark Davis did, in fact, want Tom Brady to play with the Raiders in 2020. Obviously, that didn't happen, but after that didn't happen, he let Tom Brady's agent, Don Yee, know that he wants Brady to be a part of the franchise. Now he's not only a member of the Las Vegas Aces ownership, which is also a team, the WNBA team that's owned by Mark Davis, but now he has his ownership stake in the Silver and Black along with Richard Seymour and a couple others with his little ownership committee. So there's that. I don't know what that all means. I was actually on ESPN on a Tuesday night, and they said, well, Q, what is he going to bring to the table? Like, how excited are you that Tom Brady is part of the organization? I said, honestly, I don't know. I mean, you can hear what MD has to say. You can hear the excitement in MD's voice, but until you actually see something and see what looks different about it, we really don't know. So I wish I could say that this is going to be this, that, and the third. The franchise quarterback, they're going to go locate. Tom Brady's going to coach him up. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I wish I could say that. I wish it was that easy. If it was, everybody would do it, but it's not. So I don't really know, right? And just because Tom Brady is a Hall of Famer and the greatest quarterback of all time doesn't mean that he's going to be a really good talent evaluator, or he's a guy that can say, yeah, that quarterback right there is going to get it done. This is the guy you should go pick. Like, it just doesn't always work. If that was the case, Michael Jordan would have a fantastic NBA squad, right? Like how many times Michael Jordan failed as the owner of the Hornets to try to get something cooking from getting the right coach, from getting the right players, from everything he tried to do. Great player, right? My favorite basketball player of all time, but was a terrible talent evaluator, terrible owner. So that doesn't mean that Tom Brady is all of a sudden just going to step into that role and be fantastic because he was fantastic on the field. But that's also signed, sealed, and delivered. Tom Brady now part owner of the Raiders. So with all that being said, everything that went on between Davante Adams being traded to the Jets, Tom Brady now being a part owner of the Silver and Black, what is on your mind? What do you feel about all those situations? 707-654-4693. Your calls and texts are coming up next in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about FanDuel, one of the great sponsors here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. We've got week 6 is already officially in the books, so there has been some football played. There's obviously a lot more football left to be played. You could jump right into FanDuel, all the action. It's America's #1 sports book. You want to make a little money, you feel pretty good about a team or multiple teams, or you feel good about some player props, you can do everything that you want on FanDuel. Matter of fact, even in the middle of the game, if you get a hunch, you can go to FanDuel.com. You could jump into the app. You could jump into America's #1 sportsbook, and you can make some money. You could check out all the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, and there's so much more, all on the same page that you place your bets. You've got to check it out. It's at FanDuel.com. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Simple as that. Again, you place your first $5 bet, you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets. Just like that. Go to FanDuel.com. Remember, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time to jump into your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Up first is a first-time caller. He goes by the name of Tim. He's calling to talk about him being frustrated with the silver and black and why. Here he is, Tim.
Hey, my name's Tim, first-time caller, but I've been listening to the show for a while, and, man, I'm just so frustrated going to every season with hope and just letdown after letdown. And I know AP is new, as a head coach, but, man, he just makes bad decision after bad decision. O'Connell should have started from day one. He earned the job last year. And Luke Getzey is awful. I mean, every single game this year has been terrible play call after terrible play call. I mean, last time it's 1st and 20, we run it up the middle. 2nd and 18, we run it up the middle. 3rd and 18 again, and a little dump off pass. I mean, Luke Getzey, something needs to change. That's for sure. I'm just frustrated. I hope we can figure this out. I'm excited for Brock Bowers. I don't think we're really losing a lot, losing Davante Adams at this point. But, man, something's got to change with our offensive play calling. And AP's got Tom Coughlin, Marvin Lewis. He's still making these terrible in-game choices. I don't get it. But diehard Raider my whole life, and I always will be. I just hope one day I can be proud of my team.
Tim. What's up, Tim? Appreciate the call. First-time caller. Don't be a last-time caller, my man. Definitely want to hear from you. But, no, in all seriousness, totally understand the frustrations, right? The team needs to do better for sure. There's no doubt about it. And, really, it's been a long time coming that the team does better and has needed to do better for sure. They have not been consistently a good team in forever since the last Super Bowl visit that they lost to John Gruden and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I hate to bring that up, but that's the reality of it. They have not been a consistently good winning team since then, since John Gruden 1.0. Think about how many coaches, how many quarterbacks, how many players, how much hope the Raiders have had since then. And, well, so far, nothing consistently. Now, as far as Luke Getzey goes as offensive coordinator, he's got a lot of work to do, right? He's got a lot to prove moving forward. We talked about him moving, in the regular season. We said, hey, man, this guy, we haven't seen what he did, that was really well in Chicago. Some will say it's Justin Fields' fault. Some will say it's his fault. Well, right now, Justin Fields, at least he's winning in Pittsburgh. Doesn't look great, but he's winning. They're 4-2, whereas the Raiders are 2-4. And Luke Getzey, his offense looks like there's no rhyme or reason, right? I mean, it could be a short stay. I'm not one of those guys, as you know, that just says, hey, fire everybody. Oh, get rid of them. It's a small sample size. I think that a move to the booth is something that's inevitable sooner rather than later. And if that doesn't work, then it could be, him moving out of that spot and being replaced sooner rather than later. But, again, that's something that we won't know until we know. We do meet with Antonio Pierce later on this morning. So, obviously, we'll talk to him about the Davante news. We'll be able to finally officially put that to bed. But we'll also ask him questions about, this team moving forward and if any decisions have been made personnel-wise, coaching-wise, to try to improve what they've got going on. But, Tim, thanks so much for the call again. Do want to hear from you. Appreciate it. Up next, got a text from AB in Inglewood. What's good, Q? It's AB out here in Inglewood. Love your show, brother. I want to touch in on the Davante Adams trade. Appreciate everything he's done for us, but we move on. Don't need anyone in Vegas that doesn't want to be there. I believe that third rounder we got will turn into a second rounder, and it was huge for New York to take on his salary. Tom Brady becoming a minority owner is huge. He's the GOAT, and people know it. I think his voice will be heard, and it'll attract players in Vegas in the near future. But it all starts at the quarterback position. I hope he has a lot of influence towards next year's draft. Shador Sanders, get ready to learn. Las Vegas. Just win, baby. That's AB from Inglewood. And, going back to Tom Brady, that could be an area that the Raiders use him is to try to attract free agents to come to the organization. The one thing I know about Tom Brady, the one thing that I'm very, confident in saying is where he goes, he makes people better. So, when he was in New England, he made everyone around him better. When he went to Tampa Bay, he made everyone better, including the janitor, including the people in the lunchroom, everyone, right? Everyone, because you want to work a little bit harder. You want to make sure that, hey, I got greatness around us. Let's make sure we really step up. So maybe there is a case where he could attract free agents to come to Las Vegas, and maybe he can help them identify a quarterback. There has been times where he's worked with Shedeur Sanders. There's pictures out there on Twitter floating around about him, working out with Shedeur Sanders. Maybe that's the case. Maybe Cam Ward is the guy that they're looking at. Maybe they're looking at someone else that we're not talking about. Whatever the case may be, if he could help out, like Mark Davis said, you heard him in segment number 2, if he can help out with the future quarterback of the Silver Black, because I don't believe he's on the roster right now. I know some do, but I do not. We'll see, what happens moving forward. Obviously, there's still a lot of football left to be played. Maybe he can, fill that void. And if he can, cool. Right? That's fantastic. Then all of a sudden, his, partial ownership of the team, well, then that's already paid its dividends if they can go and find their future quarterback. So, AB, thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from, I believe, Kirk from Hemet. It was a little muffled. It sounded like Kirk or Kurt. If I got your name wrong, I know you've been on the show before. I remember it from Hemet, so I apologize for that. But he's calling to talk about the super negative call we got on Tuesday from Raider Morpheus that ended the show on Tuesday, and just kind of wanted to touch on that real quick. Here he goes, Kirk from Hemet.
Kirk from Hemet called, kind of pissed off at Raider Morpheus's demeaning, disrespectful text. First of all, you need to let guys like that live in the hole that they live in. Honestly, Q, you don't need to bring that energy to the show because obviously he's pissed off and he's mad about the life he lives. And like you said, the personal stuff does happen. There's no need for the level of disrespect. It's a podcast about our fandom, about a football team. And, I understand you read those comments, you read those texts. Honestly, I don't know why, because you're just giving them the satisfaction of being heard. And honestly, people like that, like Raider Morpheus, don't need to be heard. The world could do a lot better without that type of negative energy that's pushing through it. The Raiders are sucking right now, but again, it's football, man. At the end of the day, I'm waking up and I'm going to work and I have a family. Same thing with you. It's just not necessary. It's a football podcast, and that was as doubtful of what he said. And now you read it. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I feel like a lot of us that listen and hear the podcast would absolutely agree with that. And honestly, maybe start filtering out those types of calls. I understand you want to have an unbiased and realistic podcast, and I'm totally with that. And honestly, 95% of what comes through is factual and respectful, and I like it, whether it's positive or negative, because it's a positive opinion. But that level of just atrocity, per se, and hypocrisy, not needed here. You're too good for it. The rest of the fans are just too good for that. And unfortunately, I feel sad for Raider Morpheus because dude sounds like he's depressed and in a bad spot. Kirk from Hemet, I'm out.
Thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you. And yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I totally understand. I know that I could totally just skip over a call like that or a text like that. But I do want to let it be known that, look, I'm not going to censor you outside of, I'm not going to put cursing on the show. That's not my bag. I know it's a podcast and cursing's okay, but I'm a radio guy through and through. So I go by radio rules. Plus my mama listens to the show. Families listen to the show. So I'm not going to, have people, cursing on the show. I'll bleep it out or, just try to cut it out if I can. But when that one like that comes through and, they start questioning what I will or what I won't do because of reasons that they think they believe, I don't mind sharing that. I don't mind sharing that because they're wrong, right? And I don't mind letting them know that they're wrong. And so, when I get a call and a guy's telling me, oh, you're not going to do this because you're afraid of this or you're afraid of that. I've told everyone 1,000 times. I know I'll tell people 1,000 more times. I do not work for the Las Vegas Raiders, right? Mark Davis does not sign a paycheck to me. So there's nothing I can say on this podcast. There's nothing I can say on my radio show. There's nothing I can say on ESPN or any interview else that I do where Mark Davis can call me and say, hey, Q, I'm mad at you. I'm taking away your access. I'm a credentialed media member like many others. There's plenty of media members in that room that talk to AP every day, just like we're going to talk later on this morning around 11 o'clock in the media room, that the Raiders aren't necessarily 100% happy with. There are guys that they don't see eye to eye. There's some that they are cool with, but that doesn't matter. They don't have to like you as long as you're a credentialed media member. you're good to go. I don't ever make things personal, and that's what I think a lot of people want to hear, and that's why people are quick to criticize questions that are asked by the media. I'm not going to ever make it personal. I don't mind being critical. I think there's a big difference. Critical and personal are two different things. Personal, people want us to go in real hard and talk trash and curse and spit and, talk about someone's mama, talk about, their haircut, the way that they dress, this, that, and the third. That's personal. Critical is like, hey, is Luke Getsy seeing the field right? Does he need to be moved up to the booth? Do you think he can get a better angle? Is the quarterback still going to be Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell? Have those guys earn more reps? That's critical. What happened? Why wasn't JB on the field more? That's stuff like that. So that's why I want to bring that to the table when something like that pops up, just to let it be known that it's not all rainbows and puppy dogs. And, if you do have your call and you're being critical, he was obviously a little personal as well with me, but that's fine, right? I can take that. If you're critical of the organization, you're critical of the play on the field, that's okay. That's fine. So that's why. But I totally understand where you're coming from. I do appreciate the call for sure. Up next, got a pretty lengthy text here from Matt in the 707. It said, hey, Q, Raider Matt from the 707 chiming in. First of all, thanks for all you bring to the table. Your dedication and effort showcase what it is to be a Raider. Real quick, on all this tank talk coming in from part of the nation, stop. These are the same folks that turn off the console when they're getting their butt whipped in Madden. There is no next season. There is now. If we go down, we go down swinging. If you can't understand that, maybe it's time to find another team. It's okay to get beat. It's not okay to quit. As far as AP not being the guy, we need to give him a chance. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. If he starts making the same mistakes over and over, let's talk. One last thing. Why is GM Telesco so quiet in all this? He's not a rookie. He should be doing a better job. He's taking some of the heat off of AP. What the nation needs right now is a unified front consisting of Mark Davis, Telesco, and AP. All successful teams have that. We seem to be, again, in disarray. If the office is a mess, we can't expect any more from the team. I was born in the nation back in 75. I don't know any other way, and I don't want to know any other way. There are 31 teams in the NFL, and then there are the Raiders. Raider Nation for life, baby, just win. That comes from Matt in the 707. And, yeah, the one thing I know about Tom Telesco is he's a pretty quiet dude. You're not going to see him or hear him talking to the media very much. He let that be known early in the process, even back at the Combine. He's like, hey, I don't mind AP talking as much as he does because I don't talk. Tom Telesco is not going to speak very often. Mark Davis hardly speaks. That's why when I played that sound from him in Atlanta at the owners' meeting, it's like, man, we get to hear from MD. He doesn't talk very much either because he lets the football people do the football things and handle the football situation. Telesco might talk. For all I know, he might show up at AP's presser today to talk about the trade of Davante Adams. I'm not too sure about that just yet. We do know AP is going to be talking this morning, and we'll obviously ask him about that and about the team moving forward. And maybe we do hear from Tom Telesco, but it's very rare that you hear from him. He's just not one of those guys that's going to talk very often. And I do think that they are all aligned together. Telesco and AP have a very good relationship, so I think that they're going to be just fine. And MD is trusting that those guys know what they're doing with them and everyone else that's there in the front office. So thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. We got a call from Calvin from Maryland. He's calling to share his thoughts on the Davante Adams trades and the baggage that he brought along with him. Here he is, Calvin from Maryland.
Yo, Q. Your boy Calvin from Maryland, man. I ain't even really planning on calling you the rest of this year, man, the way this season is going. But, when it's new news, I got to drop my feelings on it. You know what I mean? So we traded Davante. It is what it is. I'm not even upset about that, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? We got some compensation back. 30-plus-year-old wide receiver. Didn't want to be here. Didn't want him to be a poison in the locker room. But I'm upset because I felt he brought baggage with him. Luke Getsy. I mean, I think that was all Davante. We brought him in to please Davante. I feel. So, you know what I mean? I could be wrong. But, I feel we brought him in. And then when you sit and think about it, bringing in Luke Getsy, I felt that kept us from getting a Justin Fields type guy. And I heard one of your callers on the radio show the other day, which was speaking the truth. Like, I don't need you to do everything good, but I need you to do something great. You know what I mean? One thing about Justin Fields, he's elusive. He can move around the pocket, extend some plays, which he did on us. You know what I mean? And I think we got a good cornerback group, but the fact that he was able to extend plays with his legs, it hurt. a good cornerback group that I feel we have. You know what I mean? But so I mean, I feel it was a lot of opportunities for us this off season that we didn't take because I think we was trying to keep Davante happy, and I mean for it to turn around and just bite us. You know what I mean? But like I said, man, I ain't keeping nobody that don't want to be kept. You know what I mean? So, hey, good luck to him in New York. You know what I mean? So, but that's my thoughts on it, man. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the whole process. I know you dialed in, so you know what I mean. I'd like to hear your thoughts on everything. Once again, man, you know what it is with me. Win, lose, or die, I'm a Raider till I die. You know what I mean?
Thank you for the call. And yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point when it comes to Davante Adams and Luke Getsy. Remember, Luke Getsy was not AP's first pick. Cliff Kingsbury was the guy who was supposed to be the offensive coordinator. He was the guy, and I remember going into the weekend, I was sitting in the barbershop on Saturday morning getting ready to get my hair cut when Adam Schefter tweeted that, Cliff Kingsbury has pulled out. He's no longer going to be the OC of the Silver and Black. And then they had to make a move to Luke Getsy. And, you know, I do think a lot of that had to do with Davante Adams. So you bring up a good point that I hadn't even thought about. Right. And so he was excited about Luke Getsy's offense. He knew it really well. That's what he talked about. And now he's gone. Right. And the thing about it is, when it comes to Cliff Kingsbury, from everything I've heard, he wanted a third year on his contract. And apparently the Raiders didn't want to give it to him at first. And so that's why he pulled out. Well, I don't know the details on Antonio Pierce's contract. I never have, known exactly what his contract says. But most of the time, coordinators and coaches are aligned. Right. And I'll use the example in Dallas with Mike McCarthy. You know, he's in the final year of his deal. Mike Zimmer's in the first year there as a defensive coordinator. Guess how long Mike Zimmer's deal was? 1 year. So I don't know if maybe Getsy and the rest of the coaches got 2 years and AP only got a 2-year deal. I don't know. I would love to know the details on it, but I haven't found that out. And anyone that I've talked to hasn't really been 100% sure. When I find out for 100%, when I know exactly what it is, I'll bring it to the table and let it be known. But I don't know. And like I said, anyone I've talked to, and I've talked to plenty of people, don't have the answer to that question there. So that could have something to do with it. But thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. And we'll close this out from a text from Jacob in Ohio. Hey, Q, Jacob from Ohio here. As always, thanks for everything you do. Love the podcast, man. I'll keep this short and sweet. Just can't help but point out that we 1,000% should have got Mike Williams out of that trade. I'm sure people will be saying we should have got Wilson, but we all know that was never going to happen. But I feel like we could have easily told him to throw Mike Williams on top, and they've got a deal, and the Jets wouldn't have even hesitated. That's from Jacob in Ohio. And I'll say this, that was something I thought about, especially with Mike Williams having that relationship with Tom Telesco. But I think them taking on Davante's salary meant more to the Raiders than getting Mike Williams back. With that being said, Mike Williams is on the trade block. I don't think anybody's going to trade for him, and I think they're going to release him. And when they release him, you know who I think is going to pick him up? Tom Telesco and the Raiders. I would not be shocked at all if Mike Williams ends up being a Raider because Tom Telesco has that familiarity with him, from his time in LA with the Chargers or San Diego with the Chargers at the time when they picked him up. So I could see it still coming through full circle where Mike Williams is with the Silver and Black. I just don't think that they wanted to add him in the trade because then the Jets would have said, well, we don't want to take on that whole salary if we're giving you a player in return as well as a draft pick. You know what I mean? I just don't think that that's how it worked out. And what was important to the Raiders when it came to that trade was making sure that they got, close to a second-round pick. They got a third-round conditional that can be a second, and they didn't want to pay any of Davante's salary, and they didn't have to do any of that. So I think that ultimately was the seal of the deal when it came to that trade. But thanks so much, and we'll see what happens with Mike Williams, but I would not be shocked at all to see him sooner rather than later be in Las Vegas as a Raider wide receiver. But thanks, and that's all we got time for on today's show. Got a call from Fitz Raider in the 805. We'll get that on tomorrow's show as we officially start turning the page up to the LA Rams and what they've got going on. Week 7 action. Of course, we'll have more news and notes. We'll have plenty of that. We'll talk to Antonio Pierce around 11 o'clock this morning, see what he's got to say about Davante Adams and the team moving forward. We'll do all that and bring it to you on tomorrow's show and on Friday's show as well. Matter of fact, we got the crossover edition as well coming up. So, yeah, we got a lot coming up the next couple of days here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.